Hello everyone, welcome to the Psychology of Dating podcast. You are listening to me, Nadine Newkirk. I am both a clinical psychologist and a dating coach. For today's episode, I want to delve deeper into the DBT, dialectical behavior therapy skill of mindfulness, and specifically the observe skill. So you can have a recap of all the 6 mindfulness skills that come from DBT therapy in one of my prior podcast episodes on mindfulness skills. And I don't think I did this one justice then because one of my jobs is working for a public hospital, and I work in a very skilled team who specialize in running DBT therapy and supporting people who've had complex trauma and other mental health concerns. And part of our job is to facilitate a group together, a DBT, dialectical behavior therapy group. And these groups can vary in length. They can be 9 months long, 12 weeks long, but we do the skills and we present them again and again in these groups. And we always rotate different facilitators we're presenting with. So I always get to hear slightly different angles of ways of describing the skills. And I love it because I learn something new every time. And DBT is one of the therapies that I apply to my own life all the time. And this mindfulness observe skill was recently redone in the groups that we're doing. And I thought, wow, this could be so applicable and helpful for dating. And I want to deep dive back into this skill. But before I start talking about that, I want to remind you that I've got a free guide called Top 3 Mindset Shifts in Dating. If you have thoughts like dating's too hard, or I'm picking the wrong people, or I must be unlovable, this guide could be helpful to introduce some more helpful beliefs to your brain. If you sign up for the free guide, it's also signing up for my newsletter, Psychology of Dating newsletter, and this is where I have updates for any upcoming workshops or groups that I'm running. And I'll be looking to running another dating coaching program shortly. So if you want to jump on the waitlist or hear more about that group, then you can email me there or jump onto my website. The link is in the episode show notes. Okay. The mindfulness skill of observe. So this sounds deceivingly simple. If we want to be mindful, and that is being in the present moment, right here, right now. I'm not in the past. I'm not in the future. I'm right in this moment without judgment and accepting things as they are. And the first step to be mindful, to bring us into the here and now, is to observe. And this is not just observe with our eyes. So I can be observing things external to me or internal inside my body and my mind. If I'm observing externally, this is through the 5 senses: sight, smell, sound, touch, taste. So I'll give you guys a little snapshot of my moment right now. If I use my observe skill, and I need to observe these 5 senses without judgment, making it very factual, not just putting labels on things like bird or rain, but really describing it. So I can hear the rain, but what I would say with my observe is a light pattering tone that has different lengths and intervals that the sound hits. I can hear sometimes high-pitched melodic tones, which would be the birds. I can see pale pinks, dark blues and greys. This is the clouds and twilight. And other thoughts came to my mind as I was doing that observe. So I just did sound and sight then, but obviously there's all the other ones. But I also noticed that the windows have these weird marks on it. I'm like, ugh, why are they so dirty? Is that mold? Like, what is that? So it'll be normal for your brain to come up with judgments. And why do we want to avoid judgments? because they start to distort reality and they start to intensify our emotions and also pull us into different places. So if I start going to the storyline of like, oh, what's this really ugly, weird, mold-looking thing on the window? Suddenly I'm having these self-critical thoughts like, I should do more cleaning. I'm having all these health risk thoughts of like, what if that's dangerous? I might then have more shame or guilt or fear. And suddenly I'm not in the moment anymore. I've jumped to the future. I've jumped to my analytical mind. But if I can just say there is white, speckled, circular spots on the window, that is very different. That is staying in the here and now. And we can be judgmental if it's helpful. We don't need to always be non-judgmental. We can jump into the future if we need to plan. But the research shows the more we can stay in the present moment, with the moment as it is, we have less suffering, more peace and more acceptance. And that could be really helpful in dating. How great would it be to be more in the moment, have less suffering, more peace and more acceptance when you're dating? So the first step, observe externally through the 5 senses, but describing it factually. This can be really hard. We're so used to just labeling things, objects, noises. So is it quite a skill? It's good to practice it. But I can also observe internally inside my body. So I can observe my feelings, physical sensations in my body. So I can observe, feeling calm, but I can feel, light, warm sensations in my chest. I can feel a tightness in my hip, different sensations. I can also observe my thoughts, sentences in my brain. I can observe my urges. I have an urge to turn my head and look outside the window. I can observe my intentions. I'm speaking to you all and I have certain intentions of why I want to share this to help, but it might land differently with some of you. And that's normal, because you have a different brain, different interpretation, and my intention might not follow through, translate when it gets across. But I can observe my intention. I can also observe images in my mind. So there is, in any one moment, a whole lot we are trying to observe and can observe. And it's really vital to remember we cannot observe, someone else's internal body. So we can't observe someone else's thoughts, feelings, sensations, urges, intentions. We can make a guess. I can see that someone frowns and folded their arms and their tone, went lower. And I might infer that they're feeling angry or that they intend to harm me. But that is a guess. I do not know. You try and tell me what I'm thinking right now. Did any of you guess that I was thinking of one of those rainbow spiral lollipops, those old school ones? Probably not. There are billions of different things we could be thinking, but our brain loves to assume we know exactly what someone else is thinking in their head. And we also love to assume that we know what their intentions were when they said something. And this can be taken well out of context. And if we're dating and we're feeling a bit anxious or things like that, our thoughts will be more threat focused. And someone might make a comment on our haircut and we might suddenly assume, oh, they think it looks silly. Did they say that? Can we actually observe their emotion? We don't know. They might, but they might also not. It's really important to remind our brain that we don't know this. And this can save a lot of miscommunication because it means that we can actually check in on people when we're dating. So maybe you've been going out with someone for a few dates and you really want to kiss them, but you're too afraid to You don't want to cross a boundary or things like that. So you're waiting for them to make a move. You could ask them. You can't read their mind. You can't read their emotions, but you could check in and say what you want and ask how they're going. So, hey, I'd really like to kiss you. How would that be for you? Check in with them. Or, hey, you just said that comment about the haircut. My brain was making up that you thought blah, blah, blah. What were you actually thinking? Sometimes this could be a really connecting moment, depending on the way you say it. You know, if you say it with a lot of intensity and you're frowning and you're kind of already assuming what they're thinking, sometimes people can pick up on that energy. But if you ask it in a curious way, like really acknowledging you don't know what's in their head and you're owning your own thoughts and feelings, then suddenly you might have a more intimate, interesting conversation. I recently had a misinterpretation with my therapist. So I'm a psychologist. I see a psychologist. I always tell people we need to reduce the stigma of mental health. And just like, you know, everyone has checkups with GPs, we just need to all have checkups with mental health professionals. That's my opinion. But I am a little bit biased. I do work in the industry. Anyway, so I had a session where I was talking about trying to up my self-care, you know, as a new mum and working again and just trying to find time to like recharge my battery and practice what I preach. And I was explaining how I had this idea of one of my lunch breaks. My colleagues were doing other things, so normally I like sit and chat with them. But I thought, you know what? I'm actually going to do my work and eat my lunch at my desk. So then I can save my lunchtime and go get a massage because there was a massage place just up the road. And that's what I did. And I have to admit, I fell asleep a little bit and it was amazing. But I was saying that I had this after effect of a little bit of guilt, like overindulging or something like that. And that can be a repercussion if you're not used to kind of prioritizing you, or, you know, sometimes we're so used to taking care of others, you know, you don't do enough self-care for yourself. And there can be this after effect of guilt, even though objectively it's a totally fine thing. But I noticed certain facial expressions and tone of voice or things she was saying. And in the moment, I was thinking, oh, she's judging me. She thinks I shouldn't have done that. And I was kind of assuming what she was thinking and feeling, and it made me feel kind of awkward. And then it was nearly the end of the session, and I kind of thought about it over the week. I was like, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity to use my mindfulness observe skill, remind myself of the facts that I actually observed. What is my brain kind of filling in the gaps with? You know, assuming that she was judging me or, you know, thinking these thoughts about my self-care and going for that massage. And the next session, I brought it up with her. I was like, hey, can I check the facts about something? My brain was thinking this. I'm aware I can't read your thoughts, and I just wanted to know what was going on for you. And turns out she had some feelings, you know, jealousy, but it was not from a judgment place. I was like, damn, I want to do that. And this was really helpful. And you might sometimes check the facts and maybe someone is angry at you, or maybe it is the worst case that you feared. But then you know, and then you can work with what you've got. It's much more easier to be out in the open, to know what, you know, the intention of the other person was or what their feelings were. Because then you can make a plan, then you can, you know, do repair, or you can decide it's not working, or whatever you need to do. It's much easier than guessing what someone else is thinking and making 1,000 different plans for the thousands of different thoughts they might have. So this is one way where you can use that observe skill to remind yourself, I can only observe my own thoughts, my own intentions, my own feelings, my own sensations, and my 5 senses. Anything else, if I'm jumping inside someone else's brain or fortune telling, these are not facts. This is what my brain is making up. And this is quite a hard skill. I really recommend setting some time aside to practice it. So you might be waiting for the bus and you take 4 minutes to just observe. Notice what you're feeling as you're sitting for the bus, any thoughts that come and go in and out of your head. Notice your surroundings. Be curious and observe other people and notice if your mind is coming up with judgments or assuming what type of personality they are, and just coming back to the facts of the moment. It's kind of like our brain has this, in the moment, non-judgmental awareness first, but then within a millisecond, there's this virtual reality put on top of these judgments, these biases, these fill in the gaps. And that's okay. That's normal. It's a human brain. Our brain tries to cut corners to make life a bit more efficient and speedier for us. Can be helpful in some moments, but other times, in dating especially, when we're trying to get to know someone and we don't know them well, our brain will usually try and fill in more gaps and make up more information than is actually there. So I really encourage you to put aside 5 minutes and just practice this observe skill. See what comes up for you. Okay, everyone. Once again, it was lovely speaking with you all, and I'll speak with you all soon.